The Mary Celeste was an American ship that was found abandoned on December 5th, 1872. It was some 400 nautical miles from the Azores, Portugal, and the fate of the 10 people aboard still remains a mystery today. Hey, you got a minute? Or should I say, have you got a few minutes? Because I've got two mysteries for you. The first mystery is about the Mary Celeste. It's a ship that something happened to everybody, but we don't know what. A mystery. Then the second one is about the Red Sea. Now, if you missed the first part of the Red Sea, you need to go back to the last video that I did, or I should say the video before that, before the Christmas one, and get caught up, and then come back. So let's go on. This Mary Celeste is a fascinating mystery, because on November the 7th, 1872, the Mary Celeste set sail from New York City with more than 1,700 barrels of alcohol destined for Genoa, Italy. And on board were 10 people, including Captain Briggs, his wife, and their 2-year-old daughter. Over the next 2 weeks, the ship encountered harsh weather. And according to the lost log entry dated November the 25th, the Mary Celeste was some 6 nautical miles from the Azores. 10 days later, the vessel was spotted by the British brig Dei Gratia. The crew from that ship boarded the Mary Celeste and discovered it deserted. No one was on board. And although there were more than 3 feet of water in the hold, which really was an amount that really shouldn't have caused them panic, the vessel was seaworthy. And according to the mystery was the fact that the cargo and the personal belongings were largely undisturbed, although a lifeboat was missing. It appeared that the ship had been abandoned very quickly. Crewmen from the Dei Gratia sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, 800 miles away. There, British authorities did an investigation, which ultimately found no evidence of foul play. I mean, there were no signs of violence, no signs, except the missing cargo, no signs of foul play. In fact, there were no signs of violence or missing cargo, casting doubt on claims of mutiny, murder, and piracy. In addition, there was no evidence to support the claim that some terrible explosion had happened, because they did have on board alcohol and the fumes could have caused the ship to be abandoned. A more likely scenario is that Captain Briggs erroneously believed that his ship was taking on too much water, and he thought it's about to sink. The fact that the sounding rod, which was used to determine the amount of water in the hold, was discovered on deck suggested that it had been used just before the ship was abandoned. In addition, one of the ship's pumps showed signs of trouble. It was disassembled. A faulty reading of the sounding rod and an ineffective pump could have led Captain Briggs to believe the ship was going to sink and ordered it abandoned. Something terrible may then have taken place in the lifeboat, causing their deaths in the cold waters. There was a Captain G.C. Parker in 1985 who bought the boat and deliberately sailed it into a reef near Haiti. His plan was to defraud an insurance company and make a lot of money. When the vessel failed to sink, authorities discovered his scheme. The Mary Celeste, however, was damaged beyond repair, and it was left on the reef where it deteriorated. The interesting thing to me is that this mystery has never been solved. I mean, nobody's found any bones anywhere near on an island that would maybe indicate it. Nothing except the ship and the cargo were seemingly in order and intact. Some mysteries are never solved. And I got another mystery for you. This one is from the Bible. And we talked last time about Pharaoh. He's now coming after the people of Israel. They are up against the Red Sea, and now what are they going to do? I'm going to take you to Exodus chapter 14, and we're going to look at this for just a few minutes. Verse 10, when Pharaoh drew near, the Israelites looked up, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them. And the Israelites were exceedingly frightened and cried out to the Lord. Now, the interesting part is right here. Then they talked to Moses. They said, Lord, help, help. But then look what they say to Moses. And they said to Moses, is it because there are no graves in Egypt you've taken us away to die? Didn't we tell you in Egypt? He's pointing his finger. They're pointing his finger at him, I should say. And they're saying, let us alone. We were fine with them. And now we're going to die in the wilderness. Moses told the people, can you imagine? Everybody's coming against you. All the people are surrounding you, saying, you did this. It's your fault. I've had that feeling before as a leader. Everybody has. Something is wrong, Mr. Hill, Pastor Hill, and they may not say it, but it's your fault. Look at what happens. So Moses told the people, don't fear. It's okay. Stand firm. The Lord's going to work for you. You will see. So Moses told the people, he will fight for you. Remain calm. Then Moses asked of the Lord, Lord, what are we going to do? What does the Lord tell Moses? Why are you crying to me? Go forward. Now understand, the water's right there. They're up against an ocean. And they are ready to cross it, except they don't know how. They got to cross it. They can't go back. They can't go to the side. They can only go forward. Look at what he says to Moses. Lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the Israelites shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. Now this is before God even started the wind to blow. I'm sure it was starting up, but the wind came along and totally blew the water so it stood right up. Even before that happened, God's saying, go forward. Sometimes God does that to us, doesn't he? He says to me, Steve, it's going to be okay. Trust me, I got this. And I'm saying, but God, but God. Like the time I was stuck in the airport in New York, or I should say New Jersey. I mean, I can't tell you how many times there were cancellations in the middle of the night. And I had to go to a couple hotels and sleep in the airport. And I felt like saying, God, when am I going to go home? God said, I got this. You're going home. Don't let your anxiety get a hold of you. And I did. Look at what happens next. He said, God said, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they're going to go after you into the sea, but see what I'm going to do. The Egyptians will know that I am God, and I have glory over everything, over him, his chariots, and everything. The angel of the Lord, who had taken the fire that led them to the Red Sea from Egypt, or the cloud of fire, or the cloud by day, both of them led them. Now the angel took the cloud so the Egyptians couldn't get too close and put it behind the people. That's a miracle. Now coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel, the cloud and darkness to the Egyptians. It was cloud and darkness to the Egyptians, but it gave light by night to the Israelites. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. Can you imagine all of a sudden the waters go and they begin to stand up as that wind is blowing? You know, today we had a bad day of weather, and it was pretty windy at times, but nothing like this wind. This wind absolutely blew hard and began to push the water up so that there were walls of water standing up on both sides. And as the water is standing up, I can't tell you how many feet tall, because the thing is deep, maybe miles deep. So here's the water standing up, and then the ground began to dry up. Because the Bible then says, the Israelites went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians then pursued and went in after them in the midst of the sea, all of Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And see, the people, they're going in. That wall that pillar of fire is holding back the Egyptians until the people can get far enough across, and then the Egyptians were able to come. Their stubborn hearts said, we don't care, I'm not afraid. That's what Pharaoh was saying, we're going in after them. And so as Moses then stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its strength and normal flow, that all of a sudden the water, as the Egyptians are coming through, the water begins to fall on them. And as that's happening, and just before as it's beginning to happen, God also threw the Egyptians into confusion. So instead of a command, let's go forward, let's do it quickly to get them, no, they began to be confused. So maybe some of them turned around and some of them went forward and some of them didn't. And they got caught. As the water began to start to come down, they got caught in that water and their chariot wheels wouldn't move. The waters returned, covered the chariots, the horsemen, and Pharaoh. And you know what's interesting what the Bible says? Listen to this. But the Israelites walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right and on their left. The Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. I want you to catch this. A little bit of time we got left. I want you to understand. You've just come across a wide sea. And all of a sudden you see, as the last person's coming across, then the Egyptians are starting to come. Here they come. As Moses lifts his hand up, God brings down the waters as they're in confusion, trying just to get to the other side, and the waters are coming down and totally devastate them. Water is heavy, and it can come down on you, and it can begin to crush you. And that's what began to happen. Every single one of them, the thousands of chariots, died. The Bible's interesting because the Bible said not only did Pharaoh send the best chariots, but other chariots as well. So we can figure there must have been hundreds of chariots, maybe up to 1,000. God is great. And you know, I'm so glad you could be with me today for just a few minutes. And as we go on together to the next mystery, the next miracle, if you like things that are a little bit weird, a little scary, mysterious, then I want you to join me next time. Because next time, I got another one just for you. I'll see you next time when you got a minute.